Hello and greetings, children. This is Mrs. Reema Odani, and I welcome each one of you to your social science class. I am sure all of you are safe and in good health. I am sure all of you are taking extra care of yourself. The monsoons are about to set in, so enjoy the rains, but also be very cautious. I have been emphasizing on reading a lot in my previous videos. I am sure many of you are avid readers by now. When we meet, I would love to hear about some interesting books you may have read. There is a saying that time and tide wait for none. The process of nature will continue, and so should your focus on education. So stay focused, guys. Here are some important instructions that you must follow. Please read them carefully and follow them religiously. I am very particular about the way your notebooks and textbooks must be maintained. You can judge a book by its cover, but you can most definitely tell about a student how he or she keeps his or her books. If you respect your books, the respect will be reciprocated. So, some instructions are you must assign 3 notebooks for each subject, one for history, one for geography, and one for civics, which I'm hopeful that you would have already done it by now. Use gel pens only. So, you must have a blue gel pen and a black gel pen. Do not write anything on the red margin in your notebooks. All headings, for example, like date, chapter number, and name, to be written with black gel pen only. In your history classwork notebook, leave the first page and begin writing from the next page. On a new page, write the date on the left hand side just below the red margin. On the first line, write the chapter number, chapter name. I've given an example on the slide. All questions to be written with black gel pen and all answers to be written with blue gel pen. This is your first time writing with pen, so make sure your notebooks are neat and clean and your handwriting is legible. Legible meaning that everyone can read it easily. Take your time and do not rush. Now, some very strict instructions to be followed for your textbooks. Never, ever write with pen in any of your textbooks. Use a pencil to write if you must, and a ruler and a pencil to underline. Keep your books neat and tidy so that when you want to read them, you feel motivated. Here is a sample page of how your heading and the question answers must look. Have a good look at it, and that is what you must write in your notebooks. With a positive thought, let's begin. Today, we are going to begin chapter 4 of your history textbook, which is What Books and Burials Tell Us. This is the first time I'm teaching you guys history. So before we begin knowing more about what books and burials tell us, let me ask you a question. Why do we study history? Many of you may wonder it is a question with a very simple answer that it's taught in school and hence we have to learn it. But there is more than meets the eye. Yes, we do learn history since it is a subject taught in school, but more importantly, we read history since we want to know about the past. Let's discuss this further. History is a part of social science. Social science helps us to understand the working of a social world. It tells us about geography, the way the economy works, and the manner in which the social and political life is organized. Most parts of social science, other than history, tell you about the world in the present. However, history will help you know how this present has evolved. It will tell you about the past of the present. So, your obvious question to me would be that, Madam, what should be the answer? If somebody does ask us, why do we learn history? What is the answer we should give them? Well, here's the thought. When we live in a society, we become used to the world around us. We begin to take that world for granted. We forget that life was not always the way we see it. Can you, for instance, imagine a life without wheels, a life without mobile phones, or very, very basic, a life without fire? Can you think of what it is to live in a society where cultivation of crops was unknown? Or what it was to live at a time when roads and railways did not exist, and yet people traveled long distances? History can take us into these pasts. History, in this sense, is an adventure. It is a journey across time and space. It transports us into another world, another age, in which people lived differently. Their economy and society, their beliefs and faiths, their clothes and food, their settlements and buildings, their arts and crafts, everything was different. History can open doors into such worlds. You may shrug your shoulders and say, why should we bother about the past that are no longer with us? Pasts have gone by. But history is not just about the past, it is about the present. The society we live in has been fashioned by those who came before us, the joys and sorrows of their daily lives. These changes were so often gradual, so small, that the result was mostly not noticed by people at that time. Only later, when we return to the past, when we study history, we begin to see how these changes may have happened and we can observe their long term effect. Like the first time man used two stones, two pebbles to create fire. By reading history, we can understand how modern world has emerged over centuries of development. So now that we have been talking about the past, people who study the past are of course known as historians. So let's understand how historians know about the past. Historians are like detectives. They follow clues or hints, any traces left by people who lived in the past. Everything that has survived from earlier times, for example, stone tools, traces of plants, bones, written material, and pictures, ornaments and implements, inscriptions, meaning carvings on stones, and coins, buildings and sculpture, pots and pans, which are vessels, of course, can tell us something about the past. This is what helps historians and archaeologists study these sources and they try and understand how people lived in the ancient times. Now, coming back to the chapter, what books and burials tell us. Now, 50% of the chapter is on books and the other 50% is on burials. Now, let's understand the first half of the chapter. Now, books were a very important source of information to know about the past, and that is what helped the historians and archaeologists find out about the past. One of the most important books of ancient India are the Vedas. The word Veda means knowledge or wisdom, and Vedas are the texts of ancient India and sacred books of Hinduism. They are probably the oldest texts in the world. According to Hindu tradition, the gods told the Vedas to the rishis. So they weren't written, they were narrated, they were recited. As there was no writing at that time, the rishis kept passing them orally from one generation to the other, and that's how the Vedas were preserved. The Vedas are a collection of hymns and other sacred ancient religious texts. The Rig Veda, which is the oldest of all the Vedas, were composed about 3,500 years ago. The Rig Veda includes more than 1,000 hymns, and these hymns are called the Suktas or well said. Just like I mentioned earlier, that we may have many sources by means of which we can know about the past. Books are one such source. In the olden days or ancient times, books were handwritten. But before the idea of recording and storing data struck people, they would recite and memorize information. The Vedas are one such source. They are a large body of religious texts originating in ancient India. They are composed in Vedic Sanskrit. The texts constitute the oldest layer of Sanskrit literature and the oldest scriptures of Hinduism. The Vedic Sanskrit is quite different from the Sanskrit that you learn in school. Now, coming back to Rig Veda. Rig Veda is the oldest of all the four Vedas. Scholars think that the Rig Veda must have originated in the northwestern part of India, known as the Sapta Sindhu. It is divided into 10 books containing 108 hymns in praise of different gods. You may know from your families or your elders that 108 has a religious significance in Hinduism. Many mantras are chanted 108 times, 108 times. The Rig Vedic people looked upon the forces of nature as God. Most of the hymns of the Rig Veda are written in praise of various forces of nature. Verses describe nature in a very poetic way. Rishis like Vishwamitra, Vashishta, Bhartavaja have written the hymns. Some of the verses of the Rig Veda are still recited at religious functions. The most famous Gayatri mantra is the part of Rig Veda. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Tatsavidur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. For almost 1,000 years, it was preserved by oral tradition only. Coming to the next set of Vedas, the Yajur Veda. The Yajur Veda is a book of rituals. Yajur meaning sacrifices and Veda meaning knowledge. We will know more about sacrifices in the coming slides. Yajur Veda is the book that gives us knowledge about how to go about the yagnas and the sacrifices. It is like a handbook, a manual for the priests. Samaveda. The Samaveda is the book of melodies. It was a songbook for singer priests who took part in the rituals. Most of the stanzas in the Samaveda are from the Rig Veda, and there are instructions as to how they should be chanted and sung. You must have seen, priests performing rituals at various weddings or, even in havans. So you must have seen that they chant the songs or the mantras in a very rhythmic way. So that is where the source is. Atharva Veda. The Atharva Veda is the fourth Veda. It is quite different from the other three Vedas. Unlike the other three Vedas, the Atharva Veda has less connection with sacrifice. The first part of this Veda comprises chiefly of spells, which are mantras and charms, concerned with protection against demons and disaster. Atharva Veda consists of mantras for the healing of diseases and for a long life. Let's know more about the Vedas. The Rig Veda includes more than 1,000 hymns called the Sukta or well said. Hymn would mean a religious song of praise for gods and goddesses. Three gods were especially important. Agni, who is the god of fire, Indra, who is a warrior god, and Soma is a plant from which a special drink was prepared. Now, the next question you may have in your mind is who composed these hymns? These hymns were composed by sages or rishis. They were taught to the students by reciting and memorizing each syllable, word, and sentence bit by bit and with great care. You see on the slide the picture of the sage who is reciting the mantras, the Vedas, and the students surrounding him folded their hands and recited it and memorized it. The first three Vedas. The first three Vedas are the triple sacred science of reciting hymns, which we find in the Rig Veda, sacrifices, which are in the Yajur Veda, and chanting, which are in the Sama Veda. Now, books were also a source of information in the past, and it is so in the present as well. Now, what is the difference between these books? The books we use today are written and printed, but Rig Veda was recited and heard rather than read. The books we read today are first written and then read. In the olden times, the Rig Veda, it was written down several centuries after it was first composed and printed less than 200 years ago. The Aranyakas constitutes the philosophy behind ritual sacrifice of ancient Hindu texts, which is the Vedas. They typically represent the later sections of Vedas and are one of the many layers of the Vedic texts. The other divisions of Vedas are the Samhitas, which is the collection of mantras, the Brahmans, which are the rituals, the Aranyakas, which are the sacred texts, and the Upanishads, which is spiritual teaching or the concluding part or Vedanta. Ved meaning knowledge and Anta meaning ending. That was the end of the Vedas. The Aranyakas are a set of texts that form part of the Vedas, which are ancient Indian and yogic philosophical literature. The Aranyakas explain the philosophy behind the ritual sacrifice sections of the Vedas. The name Aranyakya comes from the Sanskrit root word aranya, which means forest. This is because they were intended as texts to be read and studied by rishis who had gone for peace or solitude to the forest to deepen their understanding of these practices. Now, coming to Vedic Sanskrit, the language in which all the Vedas were made. Sanskrit and other languages is a part of a larger family of languages known as Indo European languages. Some Indian languages, such as Assamese, Gujarati, Hindi, Kashmiri, and Sindhi, and many European languages, such as English, French, German, Greek, Italian, and Spanish, belong to this family. They are called a family because they originally had words in common. Take for the example the word matra, which is in Sanskrit. It means ma in Hindi and mother in English. Do you hear the tone of it? They all sound so similar. Other languages used in the subcontinent, India, belong to different families. For instance, those used in the northeast belong to the Tibeto Burman family. Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam belong to the Dravidian family. And the languages spoken in Jharkhand and parts of central India belong to the Austro-Asiatic family. I have made a table for you on your screen so that it is easier for you to memorize them. Historians, like archaeologists, find out about the past, but in addition to the material remains, they examine written sources as well. Some of the hymns in the Rig Veda are in the form of dialogues. Historians utilize separate literature remains to reach a conclusion about any case of history together with archaeological remains. The textual rests of the hymns in the Rig Veda contain many such dialogues. One of such hymns can be attributed in the Rig Veda, which is a discussion among Vishwamitra, a sage, and two sister rivers, Satluj and Beas. So here is a video telling you about what happened with Vishwamitra and what he conveyed to Beas and Satluj. Historians, like archaeologists, find out about the past, but in addition to material remains, they examine written resources as well. Let us see how they study the Rig Veda. Some of the hymns in the Rig Veda are in the form of dialogues. This is part of one such hymn, a dialogue between a sage named Vishwamitra and two rivers, Beas and Satluj, that were worshipped as goddesses. Vishwamitra is a sage who earlier was a king. Vishwamitra says, "O rivers, come down from the mountains like two swift horses, like two shining cows that lick their calves. You move like chariots to the sea. Through the power of Indra, you are full of water and wish to unite with one another." The rivers reply, The rivers say, "We who are full of water move along the path the gods have made for us. Once we start flowing, we cannot be stopped. Why do you pray to us, O sage?" So the rivers are addressing the sage Vishwamitra and asking that we are flowing in the manner that we are supposed to, in the path which is made by God. So why are you suddenly asking us to unite, to become one, instead of flowing in our own path? Vishwamitra pleads to the rivers, "O sisters, please listen to me. The singer who has come from a distance with his chariots and carts, let your waters not rise above our axles, so that we can cross safely." Vishwamitra pleads to the rivers and requests them that the water should not rise, else his chariot or cart will submerge in the water and he will be in danger. That is the reason why Vishwamitra is asking the two rivers uh, to keep the waters at a safe level. The rivers reply again, "We will listen to your prayer so that you can cross safely." Historians point out that this hymn was composed in the area where these rivers flow. They also suggest that the sage lived in a society where horses and cows were valued animals. That is why rivers are compared to horses and cows. Other rivers, especially the Indus and its tributaries, and the Saraswati, are also named in the hymns. The Ganga and Yamuna are named only once. So you have heard a hymn which was a dialogue between Vishwamitra and the two rivers. It is a hymn which is found in the Rig Veda. For your assignments, you must go to Google Classroom. That marks the end of first part of the chapter, What Books and Burials Tell Us. In the next video, we will learn more about how people were described and how burials also tell us about the past and the way our ancestors must have lived. Your assignment to this chapter will be uploaded at the end of the chapter. Your assignment for today is to write the questions and answers of Geography Chapter 1, The Earth in the Solar System. Questions and answers in your Geography notebook. You must read the chapter taught to you today so far from your textbook at least twice. Till then, you stay safe, stay healthy. A warm goodbye from me, Mrs. Reema Odani.